morning, everybody. Keith Engle here for TGI Sports Talks. Well, one-on-one. Let me kill this music. One-on-one with Keith Engle. It's going to be our new format. We're going to talk this morning. We don't have an agenda necessarily. I just want to talk and kind of orientate you guys on what will be going on as we go forward. And I'll wait for a few more people to jump in here. I don't have a banner. I'm trying to make a banner so I can. Here, let me do this. I thought I did this. TGI. The hell with it. I'm going to do this. Let's just put this up here. Oh, not that one. How you doing, guys? Anyway, we're Keith Engle for TGI Sports Talk. Want to talk a lot this morning about some changes to the format, and we'll take your questions. And, maybe we don't go the full hour this morning, but we can talk about, the guests that I've got coming up a little bit, especially today's guest, Marty Cordova, which we'll have on at 3 o'clock today. That will be an anomaly, just to be clear. We are scrapping. And I didn't invite Carlos to the show. I wish I had. But if he comes on, I'll certainly give him a link to pop in and say goodbye to you guys and talk about what his plans are for the future. Because we are shelving Are You Serious on Friday mornings. Carlos will still be a big part of the show in the comments and whatnot, and we could have him on from time to time. But I'm going back to my roots for the Friday morning 9 a.m. show. This show is kind of an orientation. My first one-on-one. It'll be Keith Engle. It'll be back to TGI Sports Talks one-on-one with Keith Engle. And we'll be doing interviews, mostly with former athletes, maybe some sports writers we've had on in the past, like Kevin Kernan and Mike Vaccaro, Hank Gola we've had on. But we're going back with athletes. And if you remember in the past, we've interviewed Roy White, Denny McClain, Todd Stottlemyre, Daryl Knowles, Daryl Cheney, Chuck Foreman, just tons of former athletes that I've had a blast doing it. I know you guys enjoyed it. We had some great responses from the groups that I shared to, some good live audience appearances. So we'll be doing that starting. And again, the first one today is a bit of an anomaly. It'll be at 3 o'clock today with Marty Cordova. But coming up here in the near future, we've got Tim Worley on the 26th. Next week, I'll be off because I've got some oral surgery to be done. I got a few of those appointments that I've got to get taken care of. It's very expensive, so don't do it. On the 26th, we'll have, so today again, Marty Cordova, former Rookie of the Year with the Twins, also played with the Indians, the Orioles, a bit with the Blue Jays. On the 26th, Tim Worley, former Georgia Bulldog standout and running back with the Pittsburgh Steelers and a little bit with the Bears. He'll be on the 26th, 9 a.m. Buddy Biancalana on the 3rd of May. Buddy Biancalana, you'll probably remember not just for his name and the way Chris Berman had some fun with it in the 80s, but he was actually one of the catalysts of the Royals making it to the World Series and then winning the World Series in 1985. We're excited to have Buddy on. I've seen him on other shows. He's a great interview. We've also got Brian Holloway lined up for the 10th of May. Former all-pro lineman with the New England Patriots in the 80s while I was there having season tickets to help them to get to a Super Bowl. Also played with the Raiders. Brian used to live in the area up here. He's mostly in Florida now, but Brian will be a fun interview as well. And we've got some others set up. Chris F. Grave has helped me, is helping me to line up some guys. We haven't had any of his people on. Oh, Marty's his guy, actually. But we've got Kevin Mensch, former Texas Ranger, and some other. And Chris, you can post if you're here, and I'll get your comments here in a second. You can post some of the other guys that you're working on. And I'm going to go through some of the people that I've already had contact with, and it's just a matter of hooking up a date and a time. But we've got a lot of interest. So anyway, what do we got here? Chris F. Grave, good to have you. It's TGIF spectacular. Thank God it's Friday for sure. Welcome, Chris, and thank you, Chris, for your help moving forward here. JB, welcome to the show. JB, check out JB's Back It Up Binge podcast. And by the way, I forgot to mention Ralph Williams. I see Ralph Williams pop in at the top. It was so exciting getting here and talking about the new format. I want to welcome everybody on Facebook, YouTube, and and Twitter today for TGI Sports Talk, Northeast Streaming Sports. We're on Facebook, YouTube, and the Roku channel live this morning. Get those Roku channels downloaded on your Roku app, and also on Let's Talk Sports YouTube app. And I want to give a quick shout out to Ralph Williams at RW Media, who does some great stuff there in Pittsburgh, does some nationwide stuff, but very big in Pittsburgh sports and other things with Pittsburgh. So if you're in that area and are interested in all things Pittsburgh, definitely check out Ralph. But check him out wherever you are. Ralph does some great stuff, specifically the Sports Corner with Smokin' Jim Frazier that he does every Tuesday, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern on WBVP radio. So check that out. And there's Ralph. Good morning to you, Ralph. Good to have you with us. Jim Beringer. Oh, where's Jim Beringer? Just saying hi. Looking forward to our hockey chat Sunday. I will have Jim on the Sunday Stream of Consciousness Sunday. Catch us up on hockey as we steam towards the playoffs. I know we're going to get some hockey guys in our new interview show as well, Jim. And if you've got anybody that might be willing to come on, I'd certainly appreciate the reference. So we'll get back, as I mentioned, 9 a.m. Fridays. We'll be back to Keith 101 with Keith Engle. Our interview show, and it'll be interactive. I want to be clear. You guys are going to be able to partake in this. I'll do my interview. If I see a comment, we'll probably put the comments off to the end. If I see something that's very relevant to what I'm talking about that moment, I may put it up. But we'll give you guys some time, maybe towards the end, after the show or towards the end of the interview. We'll give you guys a chance to do some Q&A with the guests. And always, no matter who it is, be polite. We're not going to have OJ on, but if we have a one of these players, and we've had them on, guys who are, what's the word I want? Polarizing. Denny McClain, for instance. And Denny was a recorded interview, and I wish I had audience participation there. But some of these guys are a bit polarizing, and you just have to be diplomatic and professional that you want to do. Carlos, good morning. The Mad New Yorker and my former co-host on Are You Serious? Carlos, if you want to pop in to kind of talk about what you'll be doing going forward, we'll certainly get you on here before the hour's out for 10 minutes or so and chat. I'd be happy to do that. You just let me know, and I'll send you a link in Messenger, I guess, if that works for you. But you just let me know. Again, I've told Carlos, the Are You Serious? You're welcome, Ralph, as well. And Ralph did mention about the Steeler running back. That's Tim Worley, yes. Great player at Georgia. Maybe never met quite his potential in the NFL, but had a couple pretty good years in the NFL. We'll talk to him for sure. I was starting to talk about the Are You Serious? I've told Carlos he's more than welcome to continue to use that moniker, as he came up with that name for our show once I decided I want to try to give that a go. And we had a good run for, over 2 years anyway, I think. And I enjoyed it. And it was just some need for me to kind of get back to my roots and do something that I've been aching to kind of get back into. So anyway, no reflection on anybody. We just want to try something different, go back to our roots. Chris said he used to chat quite a bit with Kevin Paisley, former Major League Baseball catcher. Real fun guy. Hope he's well. Facebook and email. He just really disappeared. Well, I got some names that I'll tell you that I've been in touch with. And this is just, by the way, I've only scratched the surface here. I'm going through basically, not even alphabetically, some people I talked to in the past, and then I started doing a little bit of alphabetics, and I only get into the B's, I think. Not even. Awesome, wild, and wacky Eastern Conference. How about those Islanders? We're not going to talk too much. We'll get into a little bit of stuff, but we're going to save most of our chat for the Sunday Stream of Consciousness. Obviously, there's news out there with OJ, so we won't be interviewing OJ. His search for the killers on the golf course has gone away. And again, I want to reiterate, Carlos, if you want to pop on, you just let me know, and I'll send you a link to come in for 10 minutes or so and talk to the people and talk to them about if you plan on doing anything going forward. And if you haven't decided and you decide later, you let me know, and we'll be pushing it on this on this show. Good morning, Kenny. Good to have you with us. If you're just joining us, as I see a bunch of people have just popped in. I'm talking today right now about the fact that we're changing format. I shouldn't say changing, actually. We're reverting our format back to its original format. So maybe I can say format a few more times. We started this show when I was scared to death doing it, interviewing former athletes. And that was it. We didn't do the commentary shows, the interactive audience shows. We didn't do all that. We did interviews, and I had a blast. I told you about some of the ones that I did that were so much fun. Roy White, Todd Stottlemyre, Greg Pryor, who I think was my first, speaking of Buddy Biancalana, Greg Pryor, his former teammate on Kansas City and former Yankee farmhand I had on. And I love having the guys. They don't have to be superstars, because some of these guys that were just role players, important people on these teams, like a Buddy Biancalana or Greg Pryor, have great stories to tell. They've written some of the best books I've read. I had Mark Littell on, who gave up the home run to Chris Chambliss. So late Mark Littell, unfortunately. He died last year of some complications after surgery. One of the funniest interviews I ever did. Dick Drago, I think, was the last one I did last year. We were doing some sporadically last year as a late Dan Harris was helping me to get guests. Dick Drago, I think, was the last one. He just passed away here a few months ago. Great interview, because he played in one of the biggest games in Major League history in the Game 5 of Red Sox and Reds World Series. So I enjoyed it a lot. Had a lot of fun. No Al Collins interview. Robert from Sportscope, check out his stuff. Robert does some great stuff every night at 8:00 on Northeast Streaming Sports and maybe other outlets. No, not at the moment. We're talking to some people, though, of interesting people. Jim Bering, you're going to have Paul Rosen on the show. We're going. I think that's weird. He's a bank of hookup of former NHLers. Awesome. And Jim Beringer, by the way, is our hockey go-to guy for hockey news. And Jim does some podcasts as well and some interviews. So check him out as well. And Chris, who's a hockey player, Chris, we're going to have on? The name is slipping by me. I started to write down a couple of names, and then I lost them after Kevin Mensch. Some of the guys that I've reached out to and will probably get: Jim Kern, former great pitcher, had two of the best years in during the 70s and 80s with the Rangers, former Cleveland Indian, great pitcher, and has got a very funny book out. Jim Sundberg, again, we talked about that Kansas City World Series win in '85. He was an integral part of that. Also a former Texas Ranger. Steve Sachs we're working on. Pat Darcy, former Cincinnati pitcher. Lenny Randall, a lot of great stories if you don't know Lenny Randall and his history. Jerry Royce I've reached out to. Bill Lasky, Bobby Gritch. Bert Blyleven I've tried forever, and I've figured out I think I'm going to the wrong place looking for him. Some people that have been mentioned to me. Doug DeSense is the guy that we interviewed on this first go-around, and it was a great interview, Doug, and also had recommended that Freddie Lynn, former Angels and Red Sox standout, also played with the Tigers and the Orioles. He referred him, and also Bobby Gritch, who I've not had a lot of interaction with yet, but we've reached out to Andre Robertson, Andy Bennis, Benny Alea, Bill Madlock, former two-time batting champion, Bob Boone and Brett Boone. Brett's can kind of blown me off, so we'll see what happens there. Brian Jordan. Can't read that name. Told you about Buddy Biancalana. Oh, Kay Mercer, who I'd love to have on. If you don't know or listen enough to my shows, Bobby Mercer was my guy growing up and always will be my favorite Yankee. I don't care that there's all these Hall of Famers. Bobby Ray Mercer was my guy growing up. And I was devastated when Bobby passed away quite a while ago now. And Kay, I've followed on Facebook for a long time. We've had a little bit of interaction, and She wanted to come on last year. Dan Harris actually had reached out to her at that point as well. And she's a very busy lady. A lot of family and a lot of whatnot, but I think she would have some great stories, and I want to get her on. So we may get the son of Veda Pinson, who to me is a Hall of Fame worthy outfielder, played with the Reds, was overshadowed by Frank Robinson. So these are just some of the guys that I'm chasing around, trying to make happen. I'm trying to read my own notes here. So there's others. I mean, I'm thinking about some of the guys I had on. It was awesome. I can't find my old scheduling book, but we had so much fun with this. And again, the format is basically going to be the same as it was. We'll do them all live. I got to a point where I was recording them all, just so that we could fit it into and this was for Dan Harrison, Let's Talk Sports, kind of, and TGI Sports Talk exclusively. But this show now is going to be on TGI Sports Talk, on Northeast Streaming Sports at 9 o'clock live. It'll replay midnight those days, and I'll also repost it several times and share it to all the groups that I share to, the baseball groups, and then the teams that all of these guys played for. I always add a bunch of groups from them and ask for permission to share these interviews, and they're always very well received. So you're welcome to come on and comment or ask questions during the show, and I'll get to the questions. I need to keep a flow going, right? So the questions I may not get to in real time, unless it's something that really is prescient, if I'm using the right word, to that very point in time of what I'm questioning about now. And again, my interviews, if you watch my old interviews, and I think I got better at this as I went along. I was nervous as hell when I started, I have to tell you. But the two guests I had my first two guests were Greg Pryor, as I mentioned. He made it very easy. And Kevin Kernan, great sports writer, formerly with the New York Post, currently writes for ball9.com. We'll get Kevin on, too, to talk some baseball at some point. But they made it very easy. And then I started to just slide into this conversational type thing. Yes, I've got some questions I want to ask, but I want it to turn into a conversational thing. So where your questions fit, we'll fit it into the conversation. Where they don't, we'll near the end of the show, we'll share them and have some fun with that. Where did I miss off here? Maybe try to get Roger Weaver Roger Weaver would be a great interview. I don't have any. He did okay. We had some great local ball players here. Well, not great. I mean, very good, right? I mean, I'd love to get Roger Weaver is one guy. Dave LaPointe is from Glens Falls. Mike Civic from Galway, if you remember Kenny, didn't make it to the big show, but made it to AAA with the White Sox. I'm trying to think of some other guys from the area here. David Palmer pitched with the Expos and the Braves rather successfully for a number of years. He's from the Glens Falls area. There's a kid named Harris whose first name is escaping me, again from the Glens Falls area. They had a lot of good players. Hell, Jimmy Dennis from Amsterdam had a pretty good minor league career. So we had some really good players from our area. And if anybody's got anybody, if you have any connections on social media, and again, if we got local players, again, when we get into the lesser known guys who maybe never made it to the majors, there's some guys, I may say no to some guys. I'm not going to interview every single person. I gotta have an interest and see where I can have a conversation with somebody, right? Anybody who played locally here in our area where I am from, upstate New York, certainly would get a chance to do it. In fact, Rennie LaRue, who founded the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, as well as the Basketball and Hockey Hall of Fames for New York State, was a guest on this show. And there's a plethora of guys that I want to try to get on that have been part of those classes. And maybe, when he's having his inductions for baseball, and a lot of big names, by the way, a lot of big names. all the big names you can think of, from the Yankees, from the Mets, from the Islanders and the Rangers and the Knicks and the Nets are part of these baseball Hall of Fames, or I'm sorry, sports Hall of Fames. And I'm going to try to get with Rennie so that when he's having his inductions, maybe we can coordinate doing an interview with at least some of those people leading up to the induction ceremonies. I think it would be a great for both of us, actually. Paul Rosen, that's a guy I was thinking of. Paul Rosen, 2-time gold medal goaltender, and working on 2-time Stanley Cup champion enforcer Chris Dingman. These are the hockey guys, and Chris Dingman, Chris pointed out to me, and Jim Beringer, if you're with us, maybe you can verify. I see Danny Pollock there, and welcome. I see a name that I definitely wanted to bring up. I was trying to think of it very closely. Thank you, Danny. Paul Rosen, Chris Dingman, Chris has mentioned to me, Chris F. Grave has mentioned he is the only quote-unquote enforcer to be a 2-time Stanley Cup champion. Whether that's a fact, I've got to rely on Chris, and he has not let me down yet. I see this comment from Danny Pollock. Danny, thanks for popping in today. Danny was a really good softball pitcher in his own right, by the way. Good athlete all around from Amsterdam. He mentions Gary Tuck, very good athlete from Amsterdam, played minor league ball, was a long time bullpen catcher and bullpen coach, if I'm not mistaken, Danny. You can correct me, for the Yankees, long time. As well as probably a couple other organizations. Kenny Gifford, Jimmy does such a laid-back kid. I played some local horseshoe tournaments with his brother Joe. I played softball with Jimmy. Jimmy's a little older than me. Jimmy might even be older than you, Kenny. I'm not sure. Joe definitely is. That's who looks like Kenny played horseshoes with. But Jimmy Dennis was very laid back, very good athlete. Everything I ever did with him, I've golfed with him. I bowled with him. Had a lot of fun with Jimmy, and he was a really good ball player in his day. So what I miss here with always enjoyed Larry King's style of interviewing that Bob McCown inherited when asking a question to be as short and as precise as possible. Agreed. My only problem with Larry King, I mean, the interviews always worked out, but Larry King prided himself on not preparing, not knowing anything about the people he was interviewing. Not necessarily not knowing anything, but not doing a lot of digging. I like to have a little something, a little nugget to throw out there. And be prepared so I'm not caught off guard saying, oh, I didn't know that. Well, there's things I'm not going to know, right? I'm not going to know everything about Marty Cordova when I talk to him at 3:00 today. Please tune in or watch that at a later time. It'll be there. And by the way, all those interviews I've talked about that I did 3 and 4 years ago, and some of the ones I did last summer too, or last spring, are there in the archives. If you go to the page and probably keyword search, say, Roy White, you'll probably find that interview. Or even go to Google and put in Roy White interview on TGI Sports Talk. You'll probably find it. So any of these people, any of these interviews, go back and watch them all. I mean, YouTube is probably an easier place to scroll through all of the interviews, all of the shows, because there's a lot of shows there now, right, that I've done since then that aren't interviews. But I had so much fun doing some of these. And if you're just new to the show and want to get an idea of some of the people we've had on and the style that I have, you'll find out soon enough. We'll see how fast I fall back into my little laid back fun. But it's interesting. I was talking about Larry King here, and I did like his style, asking a question short and precise as possible. And sometimes it's harder. Depends. If it's a difficult question, sometimes, you try to be diplomatic, and in doing that, you start to ramble a little bit, and that's not good. I agree. But Larry King, I saw an old interview on YouTube the other night with Jerry Seinfeld, And he had no idea that Jerry Seinfeld, decided to end his show. I don't know how long after the show was off that this interview took place, but it had to be a while ago because Larry King hasn't had a show. I mean, he died, obviously, and he hasn't had a show long before he passed away. But he had no idea that Seinfeld got canceled and it got a little testy after that. But I try to do that. I mean, I'm talking about, Chuck Foreman's a great example, right? We talked about his career, and it became very evident that he felt a little slighted for having a great impact on the way the game was played. There weren't a lot of running backs around like Chuck Foreman. He was a fullback, remember, not a halfback. But he really, in a way, revolutionized the game when he came to the Vikings. And he made it clear that, he didn't understand what it took to get into the Hall of Fame. And I asked him, just can't get more precise than this. You think you belong in the Hall of Fame? And his answer was classic, man. So I loved it. It was a lot of fun. So anyway, yes, my style, it depends on who they get. Some guests are very easy, right? It just falls into a conversation. You get relaxed, and it's just like you're sitting out having coffee or a beer with somebody, and I have a lot of fun. Every once in a while, you'll run into a guy, and I won't mention any names here because I didn't have that many. And I've got, there's got to be 100, 75 interviews that if you go back in the archives, you'll find. And you'll probably get an idea who the guys are that were difficult. It was hard to get. It's no fun when you ask a guy a question, and then I try to ask open-ended questions, so I can't get just a yes or no. But some of them were a little bit more difficult to get to engage in a conversational type interview, right? I don't really care for just asking a question, getting an answer, going to the next one. Bing, 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 bing. I want to follow up, and it depends on what the answer is, whether I'm going to follow up, because I am interviewing them. I try to interview them from the standpoint of finding out things that I'm interested in, which in turn, hopefully, is of interest to you. And then obviously you'll have the forum to ask more questions. So anyway, I think it's going to be a lot of fun from that regard. We'll continue all our other shows. We'll still do the Major League Baseball update. It'll be preempted today by the one-on-one with Marty Cordova at 3:00, but the MLB update will continue. Sunday Stream of Consciousness will continue as it is, basically your show, and we're all over the place, and I love it. And the Wednesday college football sports huddle will continue as well. We might have a little hiatus on that like we did last year during the heat of the summer. Once we get past spring news, transfer portal news, and coaching changes in college basketball and the baseball World Series, we'll probably take a little bit of a hiatus. And I will say this, just as a matter of getting out in front, it's possible, because I don't know what's going to happen. We've had some changes in our organization, my work organization, my real work, and it's possible that Fridays could be affected. I don't know yet. It's only a feeling. I have no evidence that it's going to come to fruition, but there could be some things that might impact the Friday shows, and if they do, we'll just reschedule and we'll come up with a new timeline for the shows that I do on Friday. I hope it doesn't. I've been doing it this way for 4 years, and it's really worked out well, and I hope to continue that. So just to give you a little Buddy Flesh. I do believe Buddy Flesh played some minor league ball as well. There's a lot of names here in upstate New York that we don't even think about. Chris, Marty Cordova, more laid back than an ironing board. Marty was interesting, and because I talked to him about doing the show at 9:00. And again, one of the issues with getting some of these guys, especially Major League Baseball players, a lot of them retire to Florida, which is good because we're in the Eastern time zone, right? But a lot of them have retired to the West Coast or at least the western part of the country. Marty's in Las Vegas, where he's from. And he's up early. Let him say, well, I'm early bird and I'll do it. No problem. Because it's 6 a.m. on there where they are, obviously. And Marty mentioned he's up well before 6, but he's got a whole regimen that he does, and he couldn't possibly do the show before like noon or 9 o'clock his time, I think. And that wouldn't work for me, so we just moved him to 3 o'clock for today. What I will say, and Chris, I think I've told you this, as you get guys, my plan is not to move the time of these interviews. If I have guys on the West Coast, I'm probably going to do the interviews and record them, and I'll keep them for the dates we have open. When I can't get somebody to fill a date or somebody backs out on me at the last minute, we'll have these interviews in the can, if you will, ready to go. That always worked out well before. So Marty, I'm looking forward to Marty. Rick Sherlock, good morning. Good to have you with us. I mentioned to Rick we'd have another one of his team's players in Tim Worley for Georgia Bulldog, as I mentioned. He'll be on the 26th. We're looking forward to that. Maybe we'll preface. What do you got here, Rick? Tea times. No, not if you're talking about Fridays and golf. No, that is not what will affect my show. I'm not sure if that's where you're going there, Rick, but let me know. I wish it was tea times, believe me. You can't take the hockey player out of the man. These hockey guys are all still early risers. I'm sure of that. I had Andre Lacroix, if I'm saying his name right. I did an interview with back again, probably 3 years ago, 2 years ago at least. I'm chasing Bernie Perrant down too, by the way, Chris. I don't know if you got any influence there, or Jim Bering if you do. I do. Bernie is pretty active on Facebook. If it's Bernie, a lot of times it's other guys, right? And you got to be careful. You're not getting catfished here, but I'm pretty sure this is Bernie Perrant, and I want to get him on. But Andre Lacroix is a great interview. I had a lot of fun with him. Trying to remember. I mean, longtime NHL player with the Blackhawks, I believe. Then he went to the WHA when they came in, and I think he may be the all-time point scorer, if I'm not mistaken, in the WHA. I could be wrong there, but I know he holds either the goal scoring record or the point scoring record. And was one of the best players in the WHA. And we had a great conversation with him, for sure. IT or golf, that's what I'm wondering. I don't know. Believe me, it is not golf that will affect the times of these shows. If anything affects me with the scheduling of these shows, it will be work related. It's a short time thing. I hope not. There's a few concerns I have there. So again, today, I'll just kind of talk a little bit leading up to today's show. Marty Cordova, unfortunately, only made it to one postseason with the Indians in, I believe, 2001. But he played on the Twin teams after Tom Kelly had his really best teams, won the World Series in 87 and 91, I want to say. Tom Kelly, I think, one of the most underrated managers in baseball. I can't imagine. And again, he had a lifetime losing record, but he won 2 World Series. And I believe he might have gone last to first both times. But I'll bet you there aren't too many 2-time winning World Series managers that are not in the Hall of Fame. So I'll be very surprised. Carl's is down for either. Not a big crumpets, but food is food. Yeah, we won't be doing high tea either. High tea is at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, by the way. It would be cool to chat with. I tried to get Craig on. And again, it's more, I'm trying to think, as far as where I want to go, I do want to get people that have some renowned, right? And Craig Phillips is well renowned here in upstate New York and probably throughout New York State as a high school baseball coach. And will be happy to intersperse some of these guys. Paul Mound, who was the manager or the coach at Union College, I had planned to have on. He's not the coach there anymore. I don't know whether he's even interested in talking about that anymore, but we'll do some of that. It's not going to be the majority of what I do, right? Because I want there to be a little bit more widespread interest and renowned, if you will. But I tried to get Craig to come on when I did this first time. Craig Phillips, one of the great coaches in Section 2. I got to be the winningest coach in Section 2 history. Great friends with my and Kenny's high school baseball coach, Roger Gifford. I wanted to get Craig on because we had some great battles with those Fort Plain teams. It was a lot of fun. It wouldn't be a show that would be of great interest to people outside of our realm, Kenny, but there are some shows and some interviews that I have done that are purely selfish. And, I may still do that. Actually, Rennie LaRue, Rennie, who I mentioned, who put together the New York State Sports Hall of Fame, the baseball, the basketball, the hockey. That was one of my most widely watched shows. So again, this area will generate a lot of people watching. Chris, Cordova suited up for the Orioles a year after Ripken retired. Yeah, that's certainly something I wanted to talk about. Again, it's kind of a Marty had this happen to him a couple of times, right? He comes along with the Twins and never plays for a winning team because, they started not paying players probably around the time that he was getting ready to leave Minnesota. Contraction starts may have already started, which we'll certainly maybe talk to him about. He got to the Orioles after Ripken had left. So obviously, what was the team like? Any team. I mean, it's a question I would ask anybody. What was the locker room like? What was the culture like? Where did you like playing the best? Who did you like playing for the best? Who did you look up to and helped you along in your career? What players do you wish you played for but never got a chance? Which managers do you wish you had a chance to play for? Things like that. I'm always interested in all of these things. Craig Phillips, definitely a great guy, Craig. His wife passed away, I want to say like a year ago. Really sad. Nice lady as well. And I hope Craig is doing okay after that. Our sympathies go out to him and his family, obviously. Well-respected family in upstate New York here for sure. Jordan Spieth fell apart at +9 at the Masters. I've got Hideki Masayama, if I'm saying his name right, to win. I actually had him at +2,000, so I put 100 on him to win. He was +3 yesterday, I think, or +2. So he needs a good day today. And then I've got a pool I'm in where you pick 5 golfers. So we'll see how that works out. But we'll be turning the Masters on and keeping an eye on it today for sure. What city has the best hot dog? I watched an interview with Marty recently. And before I say that, Carlos, we've only got about 20 minutes left if we go to the top of the hour. If you do want to pop in and say a couple words, you're welcome to do it. I haven't heard from you, so I'll assume you don't. If you do, please say something, and I'll send you a quick invite, and you can come in and say a couple words. And I hope, Carlos, by the way, that you do continue the Are You Serious? Find a new co-host and continue to do it. And hopefully you've learned something from our experience together. I had fun. Anyway, what city has the best hot dog? I don't know. Again, I don't want to dismiss the question, right? Those types of questions to me have to come up. They can't be, I don't schedule a question like, who has the best hot dogs? Who has the best? If they play someplace where, the steak sandwiches are the well-known, or crab cakes in Baltimore, I guess. Maybe it all depends on how the situation goes, whether I bring up those types of questions. I watched an interview, and I'll certainly ask the question to let him. Carlos wants to pop in for a minute, so let me just do this. I saw an interview where he what was I going to say? Oh, he was asked about the tanning bed incident. He had a incident where he couldn't play one night because he got into a tanning bed and had some injuries as a result. He has an explanation that this story was kind of blown way out of proportion, and I'm not going to get into it, but I'll let him certainly answer that for himself. Oh, sorry, I didn't see your comment there, Carlos. So we'll let Carlos come in and say, oops, what the hell happened there? I don't want that. Hang on one second, guys. Put your comments up and we'll talk some more. I'm having trouble getting Carlos in here. I don't know why. Copy. There's Carlos. Let's try this again. There we go. Let Carlos come in for a minute, and if we're talking about, if you're in the waiting room for a minute, Carlos, don't get nervous. I'll get you in. Where are we here? So anyway, we'll ask that question. It's a very interesting story, and we'll get the real one from him. I don't think the question was for us, but I'll agree. Nathan's on Coney Island, maybe the best ballpark, best Frank you can get, and you can get Nathan's in Yankee Stadium as well. They don't taste nearly as good though. Kenny and Carlos would be interesting if you're interested in doing a debate show. Kenny, you might have some interest in that. It would be Kenny and Kenny. You can bring Paula on with you, and I think that'd be fun. Gray's Papayas. I'm not sure what that is. Carlos, I did send that in Messenger, by the way. So once we get through here, we'll wrap up with Carlos. And remember, just one last reminder, and I'll stop there. Marty Cordova, 3:00 today, but that is an aberration. Going forward, 9 a.m., interview time. Tim Worley on the 26th, Buddy Biancalana on the 3rd, Brian Holloway on the 10th. That's their schedule so far, but we've got a bunch of guys coming up behind that. It's Friday. Ketchup on the hot dog. Never ketchup on a hot dog. Chris, now you're talking like a Canadian. Wouldn't be fair with Paula. I couldn't hold my tongue. Let's bring, as we only got about 15 minutes left, we'll bring Carlos in to kind of chat a little bit. Hello, Carlos, the Mad New Yorker.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Keith. Thanks for having me on.
And I'm glad you came on because I wanted to. I definitely want to say thank you because I've had a lot of fun these last few years, and it's just something that I wanted to get back to, and this time frame is where it always made sense, and I've been missing something, and I figured out what it was, and I've got to go back and do that. And you've been fun to do this show with, and the fact that we disagree on most topics made it more fun. And I gave you credit for bringing that "Are You Serious" name to the show, which I think was very fitting. And I hope that, at some point you make use of it and continue to do your thing. I know you appear on some other shows, so I wanted to give you a chance to come on and say a few words to our loyal viewers, and also talk about what you might have planned, if anything, for yourself.
Oh yeah. First and foremost, man, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on and do the show with you. It was the late Mr. Dan Harris who provided me the information for you to contact you, and then I just started watching your shows, and then I started commenting, and then we got into this nice little show that we had.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. I want to thank everybody who's been watching the show, supporting us, those who support us on this show and then the other shows that we're on. Appreciate it. Kind of felt like maybe you didn't like my last few picks. So
No.
you wanted somebody with a higher approval rating. No, but no, but in all seriousness, Keith, you got to do what you got to do what you have to do, and I'm always around, and I'll be doing a few shows here. I was working on the show with Mr. Harris before he passed. It didn't come to fruition. I wasn't able to get another producer. I'm usually one co-producing and producing things, but my schedule got hectic, so I wasn't able to make the show that I wanted to come to fruition. But I did have a lot of leads, so I'm going to go back to that.
Good.
I am doing the What the Fork Ball baseball shows, New York baseball. It's AL East, NL East, kind of keep it basic. It's a lot of information to do in an hour as well, so that's keeping me busy.
Where do those air, Carlos?
Yeah, so I was doing those on Tuesday nights, but things just kept popping up with my kiddos and other projects. You know how it is. So I might slide it in for the morning, and get it done on Friday mornings, and also do like a preview for Friday Night Baseball, which is on Apple TV for all those who love MLB streaming on Apple. But yeah, so and then Friday nights I'm on with Robert Butler. We do a sports scope. Him and I have we've always talked sports since back in the day. We went to school together at the great Austin Peay State University. If you never heard of it,
that Division I powerhouse that we talk about a lot on the shows. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's where the house that Floyd built, it's where it's at, the Red Barn.
They almost got Dick Vitale to stand on his head during one of the first ESPN presentations of the NCAA tournament back in the 80s. I remember this very well.
Yeah, and one of those, I just liked the school. It was close to home. It was very open-minded, very liberal. I mean, how can you not be with the slogan that says "Let's go P," right? So,
right.
So that's Robert and I. We do that show on Friday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern. I also do the NFL East show with Mr. Perez and others. So that we're putting together a draft show, I believe. If not, my information will be out on the Mad New Yorker information on Facebook. And then it's been a pretty busy year so far. So there's a lot going on. Sports. The best thing about sports is every day something different.
And all those shows, except for Robert's show, they're all Let's Talk Sports on the Let's Talk Sports platform, correct?
Yeah, right now they're all with Let's Talk Sports. And I also want to just let you guys out there who comment or who watch the show, if you ever feel interested in, trying to do some of these things that we do here, podcasting, just getting connected, and feel free, man. This is what it's about. It was built by Mr. Dan Harris on LTS, and he just made everybody share their opinion and was open-minded about it, and it's just become something that's caught on the LTS network. And Jack on the Northeast Streaming Sports Network, he's a good guy. He allows also for people to share their opinions, and there's a lot of things going on for everybody. And it's always good to hear other people's opinion, not just myself talk. So I was really interested when I had the opportunity to talk to you and do the show. And so it just gave us another perspective,
Well, I enjoyed it. And as I said, I think I said, if the opportunity ever comes about for us to, you need me to pop on, or like me to pop on, I should say, one of your shows, I'd be happy to do it sometime. Time allowing, obviously, but a couple of comments for you. Rick says, surely, hopefully you took his disagreements with you in the fun spirit that it was sent in. Nothing personal was intended. He wishes you the best of luck. Chris F. Grave wishes you the best of luck as well to you and your family. And these other comments aren't necessarily geared towards you. It's more about ketchup in Pittsburgh. I don't know why ketchup in Pittsburgh. I wish Ralph Williams was still with us. Maybe he could explain it to us. But maybe in Pittsburgh you need ketchup. But I'm not putting ketchup on my hot dog, guys. I'm just not doing it. So.
Yeah, what I was interested on Sundays when you had Mr. Pittsburgh and you had the steak sandwich, man. I
Oh,
hope you
Mark,
get.
yeah, Mark Mancini. I think I might be dead to Mark because I get busy and and I kind of blow off some of his phone calls, and I haven't talked to Mark in she's probably a year. Well, yeah, almost a year. It's about the time we moved here. Um, so I still post my stuff to his Mancini media page, and he doesn't, you know, he doesn't delete it. So I guess he's not mad at me, but he's busy too. This guy's he does a lot of shows. He's
Yeah.
on a lot of shows. He produces a lot of shows. There is a thought amongst some of the viewers here that he owes so many steak sandwiches to some of them for some
I
of
was
the
going to say,
that
is it because he's indebted to some steak sandwiches?
he might be in hiding because of the steak sandwich situation, but I don't know if that's exactly true. It is funny that I was joking. Danny Fuller, who's one of our newer, very loyal followers, and is a big LA fan, lives in LA. Mark lives in LA and bashes everything LA just for the sake of bashing them without any reasoning or anything, just for the sake of bashing them. And he's a Pittsburgh fan, so I don't know. You got a lot to hang your hat on there, Mark. If you're listening, I keep telling you, stop bashing it. I hate to be the guy to stick up for the Dodgers because I'm a Yankee fan.
Yeah,
history goes back decades. If you're a Pittsburgh fan, you have won a World Series since 1979. You got to be quiet.
No, I mean that's like being from Green Bay and living in Miami and just bashing everything Florida because but you won't go back to Green Bay because you know how horrible those winters are.
Right.
But I mean it happens to everybody, right? People get moved around, people get displaced, and some of their some of the situations that marriage or university, whatever, they go different places and the one thing that's always constant, the one thing that helped me get through it as a former military child is that sports is constant. It's always there. Things are always happening, and there's always something that's going to be different. Not every game's the same. So
Danny obviously knows of Mark Mancini. It's funny. So it's funny. And some of it's because I will comment on Mark's posts sometimes on social media. And I feel like I'd seen Danny's name there before he started coming on our show. So anyway, if you know Mark personally or you know of Mark, Danny, then you obviously know exactly what I'm talking about. So,
but we should definitely try to get like all your crew together and a few people that I know and just maybe go to a West Point game, an Army game, like at West Point or I have tickets here to Citi Field. I know you don't like taking a trip to Queens.
Queens? Who the heck goes to Queens? It doesn't have to. I mean, come on.
The Bronx is here. You can always fly. I know you got that charter jet plane. You can always fly down.
The Bronx is so much safer than the Queens.
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, but the safe hours I believe now are from 10 to 12 o'clock in the morning. So.
But I can take the train. I can take the train from Poughkeepsie right to Yankee Stadium and get right back on and go to Poughkeepsie. That's what's it's harder to go to. It's harder to go to Citi Field.
Wait, there's a train that goes to Poughkeepsie from the Bronx?
Yeah, you get right on the Metro.
Is that the Metro North?
Yeah, the Metro goes all the way to Poughkeepsie. So I often will park in Poughkeepsie and take the train. Goes right to Yankee Stadium.
That's crazy because I mean I get on the Metro North to go to Connecticut a few times. My sister lives there and I've done a few things up there, but I didn't know I went to Poughkeepsie.
Oh yeah, that's as far north as it goes, but often have done that. So yeah,
I try not to go past Westchester, man.
Yeah, you got. Well, that's upstate New York to you guys. I mean,
that is as upstate as it needs to be.
You haven't even hit upstate to where I am. This is upstate New York. It starts about 10 miles south of me. So. Anybody who lives out on the island or lives in the city, they think Westchester County is upstate New York. They'll always say that. Now, to them, I guess it is. Anything north of the city is upstate to them. So,
yeah. So my plan is to try to just reorganize that show. It's about sports business and industry of sports management. So that's one of the goals I have because that's one of the things that I like.
Boy, the more I think about it, that sports business show, Are You Serious? Might be the right title for that show, for crying out loud.
Ooh, look at you.
So,
I mean, if I could get you as a producer, because I'm so busy right now. And
I don't have time to produce my own shows. So believe me, that's why I had Dan, our good friend, good late friend Dan, as you mentioned before, trying to get guests for me when I was trying to get back in interviewing last spring.
Yeah, man.
Dan
God bless him, man. He did a lot for everybody on LTS, and you know, when after he departed, man, it was just besides him leaving and becoming a good friend of his, and talking to him, it was hard to try to pick up the pieces and try to get the information that he had already got for me. But I'm a do it on my own, I guess, and then just make it work from there.
Well, that's
what
good.
was that last comment?
That was he was going to be remiss not to bring up Russell Wilson one more time on the show here for you.
I think Russell I think he'll be okay, and it's football, man, and you got to play the game, and if he doesn't try one more time to I guess secure his legacy, then that's going to be on him. We can't get on the field and play for these guys.
It'll definitely be on him. Anyway, Carlos, thanks for coming on. Thanks for all the laughs. We'll hook up and do something together at some point. And
we get a bus like John Madden and just go around all up and down the East Coast.
Yeah, we do that. So anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for all you guys. Listen, it'll be every 9 a.m. after today. Today's, as I said, a little bit of a, I almost came up the wrong word. I can't think of the word I wanted to use. Out of the ordinary, we'll be doing the interview with Marty Cordova at 3 p.m. today, so please tune in for that. And then every Friday morning at 9 a.m., one-on-one with Keith Engle. We wish Carlos the best of luck, and you guys will see you later. Have a great Friday. See you guys.
Enjoy his show. See you guys around.